Okay, here we are again at another episode of Compliance in Motion. Welcome back, listeners and viewers. As you know, we are the podcast where we do a dive into the stories, strategies, and systems that power real-world workplace safety. I'm your host, Tony Diacenas, CEO and co-founder of Ving. And whether you're on the floor or in the field or leading from the front office, what we're all about here is bringing you those insights you need to turn compliance from a mandate into a mindset. And I'm really excited today to introduce our guest, Troy Ellsoos, Director of Operations at the Countertop Factory Midwest. Troy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having me.
You know, one of the things that we want to clearly recognize here about your organization is that you're one of the largest countertop fabricators in the Midwest, serving the greater Chicago area and beyond with in-house fabrication across granite, quartz, solid surface, laminate, and more. So this is quite a big outfit, literally stretching into parts of Arizona as well. Some of the things that Troy is noted for through the International Surfaces Fabricators Association Board is that he's really known for driving lean improvements, reducing labor expenses, cutting remakes below a 5% mark, and using technology process innovation to improve throughout their quality process. That's a mouthful, but hey, when well deserved, might as well repeat it all, right?
Appreciate that.
So Troy,
Appreciate it.
let's kick off with a quick background story. Tell us a little bit about your journey into the stone industry, how you ended up there, and in more particular, how you ended up as director of operations.
Well, it's a long journey. I've been in the industry 40 plus years, but it started off, my passion was in cabinets. And I started that woodworking back in, seventh and eighth grade, which then evolved to one of my first positions was with a cabinet company, 15 years old. And from cabinets, it evolved into laminate countertops. And then, obviously through your career paths, you evolve, you change locations, and essentially it all just became countertops, and it got into solid surface. I ventured and partnered and started my own business back in 2002, where we did primary laminate and solid surface. Eventually, in 2004, we went to the TICE show, and we saw that it was evolving into stone. If you were in solid surface, you were going to have to jump on the stone business and get involved. And my partner and I, we went back and we bought our first park industry equipment, and I've been in the stone business ever since. So that's 20 something years now. Good thing is being in the business as long as I have, you have to change and adapt. And that's one of the things I pride myself best with is always trying to look for the best possible ways out there to incentivize your team, safety wise, equipment wise, and it makes you more efficient and just,
Yeah, absolutely. So give us a background on the business, like kind of help us understand the magnitude of, you're overseeing multiple locations, all kinds of projects. So, you know, give us the kind of like the high level walkthrough of the makeup of the business and what your day-to-day focus is on.
primary here at TCF, we have about 50% box stores, maybe 10% retail business, which is growing. Um, Another 5% or so commercial. And, well, Southwest, it's a little bit more. That's in Arizona. And then I would have to say the rest is our big builders, Pulte Homes, Lennar, D.R. Hortons. So here at Midwest, we're more of a production shop. So we use a lot of software and tools that are, accessible for us to manage our scope of work. We believe in synchronous flow. That's one of the tools we use.
Mhm.
So we kind of push our teams to a standard where we go out and measure, and we set the measure and install at the same time. So all our teams are trained nowadays. Hey, materials got to be here. It's we have 10-day turnaround. So everything from day one is 10 days.
Yeah.
So that produces what we can manage through our shop. Our shop thrives um, when it's busy. It's just everybody's leaner, more efficient, safety. It all comes in roll when we're busy.
Yeah.
It seems
Tell us a
like
little.
accidents happen when we're slower.
Their idle times. Yeah, right. So tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say synchronous flow.
So synchronous flow starts with the process of a paperwork. We want to take all the noise out of the system. So that means is once we get our customer inputted into our system, and like we receive a lead and we make the sale, that's day one. We'll set the schedule, our measure install and our install and measure, excuse me, our measure and our install, right then and there, and that way the customer knows when we're coming on both days. They can take off the work. Builders know exactly when we're coming out. And in the meantime, that means all the legwork has to be done in-house between it. That means our material and our CAD work gets done on right after the measure. Our material is ordering that material and it's in-house before like 4 days prior or 3 days prior of production. Our CAD work
Mhm.
is done, our engineering's done. Everybody has a schedule on those teams of what day they have to process that work. So
Nothing skips a beat, and
nothing
it's
skips a beat. If it does, if there's a hiccup, like we don't have all the proper information or there's a material delay, it gets removed from the schedule and it starts all over again when we know those timelines.
yeah.
Um, but majority of our work, it's within those 10 days. And, and there can't be any noise in the system. That's how it makes the shop more efficient, right?
Yeah, and I would imagine that that consistent process and that seamless process really helps you to develop some consistent standards. So you're overseeing operations that span multiple facilities, including like the shops in Illinois and Arizona, and then you have field teams that are out in the field. So you've got locations all over the place. What are the biggest challenges in keeping safety and your process standards consistent across all those locations and those teams?
Well, the good thing is that we try to Midwest is corporate, right? So we try to implement everything that we've learned and processed here down in Arizona.
Hmm.
We know it works. This process works. So when it comes to safety, obviously we have supervisors down there as well, and general manager and stuff that are in charge of that facility. But there again, they learned our processes here, what works.
Hmm.
And when it comes to safety, that's something I kind of take pride in and manage. And I'm actually going there next week. I like to go down there periodically just to make sure that we're on track. Um,
Hmm.
but to answer your question, it's just having those processes in place, right? We use Ving, part of the ISFA program. Um,
Yeah.
and our team gets trained. We get the monthly videos that go out there. We make sure I follow up. The supervisors follow up to make sure that the teams, following through with their videos, their monthly videos. We take pride of trying to like we solicitate be in advance of everybody else, right? We've been doing the OSHA volunteer service for 6+ years, so it's something we
Yeah.
we strongly believe in, and it works for us. And we've been helping spread the word out there to other
Yeah.
shops.
So talk to us a little bit then about how you use that OSHA volunteer service. What do they do? How do you schedule it? They come in once or twice a year and have a checklist of things. What kinds of things do they look at for you folks?
Well, that's the great thing about the volunteer program is that they'll listen to you and they want to work with you. So they'll accompany what you want to be done. So how it works is I have to go on the website, and it's the OSHA website here in Illinois, and I have to schedule it, and they'll respond back to me. And once come up with a schedule and agreement date, they actually come in and then they'll sit down with me for 15 minutes and ask what we would like to review. And
Hmm.
I pretty much say, I want you to act like this is a surprise inspection. And
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to go that detail, but I think
Yeah.
if it's your first time, I think you just want to make sure what you have. He'll sit with you, or they will sit with you and cover the
Yeah.
bases.
That's a really interesting thing because I've been to a lot of safety council meetings and workshops over the years. And one topic that keeps coming up as a breakout session is certainly how to handle the OSHA surprise visit.
Right.
But if you have a scheduled surprise visit, you can do like a dress rehearsal, if you will, right? And
Correct.
not only you can learn more about the process, but the workers in the shop and because they're going to be involved in this at some point, right?
Absolutely correct. I mean, that's the biggest thing is you realize other departments aren't involved in this process, but then all of a sudden they could be. And to make sure that everybody, if that surprise visit comes, that they're prepared. Hey, I
Yep.
know I got to get Troy involved, or I got to get the owner involved, or somebody else, and instead of walking them through the shop, which we all know that shouldn't be done, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Take them
But
out the door,
and,
nearest door and walk around.
right, that's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
right. Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
but the thing is, I consider OSHA as a friend. They're there for a reason,
Right.
and they're not the enemy. So if you're managing your shop uh, well, and yes, they can always find something. There is not a perfect shop out there, but
Mhm.
if you know and they see the intent, they're willing to work with you. If they feel
Yeah.
that you're that negligent, sorry, then they're going to hit you. But if they feel
Right.
that you're working and they can see that you're really striving to safety culture, to have a safety culture, then they're going to work with you.
So you mentioned a little bit about the training, and we're proud to say that you're using our platform, Ving, for some of that through the International Surfaces Fabricators Association and their ISFA Academy. So that's definitely a plug for them and all the resources that they have to bring to the table. Talk to us a little bit about your training program. Do you do the majority of the stuff through online training, or do you do a hybrid approach where you have a mixture of online training and in-person conference room or hands-on? What does your program look like?
Before it used to be all hands on. Now that in I would have to say it's a hybrid currently. I do try to use the platform and have the team or the individuals do it online. But every once in a while you get a group of guys that just aren't doing it. And if they're not doing it, then we pull them into a conference room and we sit them down and we have that video.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm, going down to Arizona next week and we're going to be doing that. It's just without me there, it's a little bit, not that the team doesn't want to do it. It's just harder to implement the online.
I think that there's a mixture of people too. There's different learning styles, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's about, depending, it might be a generational thing and it might not be. We're finding it all over the place where they're just like, hey, I'd rather just watch something and interact with a video and a test online and then have some discussion afterwards. Where other people, their learning style is they'd rather be sitting in a room with an instructor watching the video and having a group discussion after, they watch instructional videos to talk about normal day-to-day stuff and how this applies, right? And so it's up to us as leaders and yourself in the shoes of accountable party to recognize the different groups and how they like to learn, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm happy that it goes either way as long as they're willing to learn. Um, but you're
Yeah.
absolutely correct. I mean, there's some guys that have adapted to this online stuff, and then you got older gentlemen like myself that we like things old school. All this online stuff is kind of relatively new.
Yep. There you go. So when you have a geographic span like you do and you guys do a lot of throughput, right? A lot of projects throughout the year and going on daily. So certainly there's got to be times where production pressure is high, deadlines are approaching, the backlog is big. What's one practical way you help teams remember stay safe on the job, even though when production pressure is high? Is this a challenge, or is it something that people understand? Hey, even though the pressure's high and we have deadlines to meet, we work in a place with a safety culture, and that permeates throughout. Talk to us about that situation and how you create that balance.
I think that comes from the leadership team, right? Walking through and reminding teams um, to think safety all the time, and that's something that you can never let up. And once they believe and they see that that's what you believe and you're preaching all the time, then I think it relatives down to the team. And they, like you said, it creates that culture. I did make this statement, the busier we are, the less mistakes and the less, there's the safety is better. I should say that, we don't have any injuries anyway, but it just seems like it becomes more natural and more busy. The
Hmm.
team is used to producing at a high rate and I don't know, we're just become really efficient where and I say that in every aspect when it comes to safety and production, the team just evolves and it's quite unique to watch. It's taken us years to get to this level, but
Yeah.
it's fun to watch now. It really
Yeah.
is. It's less work on the leadership, and now I get to enjoy, and the owners, we get to enjoy all the hard work we put in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a good point to make for listeners out there is that these kinds of things are not necessarily a flip of the switch on the wall. It takes consistency and time to build this type of culture and process and these processes across the organization and get people to adapt into them. And I think what I'm hearing you say too, with like it sounds like zero to no injuries on a regular basis. You're able to um, maintain that benchmark, but while still targeting lean methods of automation to reduce labor costs and increase capacity, and get your cut remakes below 5% and things like that. These are all major factors in running a profitable stone industry business, but they're not separate from the safety or the quality, right?
Correct. And it's all one. To me, it's all one, right? I like the fact that, we do have automation equipment, but, when it comes, nobody's handling material, um, by themselves. I mean, it's all with a hoist, a crane or the vacuum lifters and that every step. So nobody, at least in our production shops, we're not injuring our back. We learned how to handle material. Um, Safety wise, we know that with all the equipment nowadays, there's safeguards in place. So
Hmm.
and we really try to monitor all that and teaching the maintenance team, hey, lock out, tag out, because accidents happen that way. Forklift drivers, be aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Material handlers, even the deliveries nowadays, when they pull up into our parking lot, they know our standards. And
Hmm.
they don't like it sometimes, but this is our standard. This is how we're doing it.
So one of the key takeaways for me just now, what you said was when I was talking about lean and safety and hitting the right numbers for optimizing the processes, is you said for you, it's just all one thing. Safety is part of every aspect of that. And so I think that that really sets the tone and the culture for the organization, for the employees to absorb and know that they're working at a place that thinks of it as all one process. Sometimes people will tend to say, we're going to optimize this process and then we're going to check the box on safety, right? Versus integrating their thought process. Okay, if we're going to optimize this process, part of the optimization is
Yes.
considering the safety at each step of the way, right?
100%, 100%.
Do
When
you,
we implement new equipment, we think about the safety first. How is this going to involve? Like, what are the safety protocols we got to take place first? Before we can implement something, and make sure that the team or we're prepared for it. And if we're not prepared, we'll get prepared for it. But um, when we implement a new process or a new piece of equipment, all that training is at the same time, right?
yeah.
Exactly what to your point, Tony. We're not learning safety afterwards. We're trying to think of all the safety precautions before we implement something.
Do you have any one particular example that maybe is your favorite over the years that was a process or technology that got changed that improved both the productivity and safety at the same time?
The favorite one, and it's a hard one, but is water um, re- refiltering. We had a system that was too small for the shop. And we were doing our silica monitoring and we couldn't figure it out. We were just barely over the action limit, and we just, no matter what I tried, I could not figure it out. Um, but with other things, we changed the water system. We got a larger filtration system, and which able to clean our water more efficiently. And within that, boom, we were able to well below our action level. So, it was the process of recognizing that our water wasn't being cleaned enough, which actually results in how we do our silica monitor.
So if you're thinking about those processes and, the journey that you were on there to realizing that there was room for improvement, what's the one like practical thing that you would share with other fabricators that they could copy from you tomorrow to like set them on that trajectory to better protect their workers from silica related risks?
So we've taken the extra step and we added larger water lines throughout our shop to the equipment. We've
Hmm.
even reached out to the manufacturers and asked how can we increase the water pressure and change the water lines. If you have a maintenance team or maintenance personnel that can work on the equipment without bringing in that third party vendor, that's the best solution. That's the best thing I would say is find a way to feed the animal more water. And we're besides changing the lines, we also added water pumps at each machine. We flick on a little switch, so either the water jet or the saw application actually is pulling more water and pushing more water all at the same time through the system. So it's like a fire hose coming out of all the equipment, and we're able to with those that minimal cost of those pumps and adding the is really helped us. So every year we get tested, twice a year for our silica monitor, and we're well below the action levels. My team feels comfortable. I feel comfortable. So if I
Hmm.
would have to say that, everybody should really dive into the water treatment and how it gets to the machines.
That is a big trend, obviously, in the
Hmm.
stone industry, and no matter where you're at. And obviously, the whole silicosis prevention training for employees and for employers is also a big thing. And listeners out there, if you're looking for a source, you should head directly over to the ISFA organization site. They've got a great training program that fabricators all over the country are using to not only monitor what their business needs to do, there's an employer track for
Right.
the training, but also to help educate employees on all of these kinds of things. And then it gets the ideas going. And then through listening to podcasts or attending organizations, you get great tips from individuals like Troy where to start. Water throughput, take a good take a good look at that. So when you're working with like multiple crews that are made up of like trades and all different types of roles from templaters to fabricators to installers, you guys got a little bit of all of it going on, right? Culture can either be reinforced through safety protocol and process, or you could have people that perhaps are taking shortcuts or maybe skipping a process, skipping a step or something like that. So for you in your organization, it sounds like you've got everybody on the same page. So what does a strong safety culture look like to you inside a busy countertop facility like yours? How can you tell when literally, okay, we're firing on all cylinders with production, but I also feel like we're firing on all cylinders with safety protocol?
That's a great question, Tony. Um, Our busiest time of the day is morning. Right? We have all the crews coming in here. They're loading up their carts and their trucks, and it looks and feels like chaos, but it actually isn't. It's just everybody knows what their task and they have to do. Um, when I can come in the morning and I see that installers are handling the material correctly and loading up the A-frames correctly, and the forklift drivers are doing all their right procedures, right? They're honking the horns, they're stopping when they need to stop, they're notifying people. The slab carts at the same time have the safety poles in place. When I can just look out the window and I see all that going in, I'm like, all right, man, everybody's doing their thing. That's great. Nobody's taking shortcuts. When I'm not going to say we're perfect all the time, but once in a while you'll see somebody not handling something properly, or that safety pole is in place on a slab cart. And then I have to, you know,
Yeah,
I'll go
right.
talk to that person and just remind them.
Yeah, it's the whole thing of when you see something, say something. And not
Right.
only does it apply from the boss to the floor, but also people, each other, because, it's a dangerous environment. There's a lot going on in the air and from these heavy slabs that are getting moved around to machines and to storage inventory areas. And you really have to have a team of people that are looking out for each other as they're going throughout their day. And it sounds like you guys have established that culture as well.
Yeah, I'm really proud of my team, to the fact that they do look out for each other. They care about each other, as we do. But if something's not right and they see something out of line, they'll at least speak with that other team member and go, "Hey, man, let's work better on this." And I think if it's a couple times they have those conversations, that's when they come notify me.
Good.
So they try to handle it themselves, whatever the issues may be, before it gets to the, climbs the ladder.
Yep. I just did a podcast with a guest, and he was talking about psychological safety in the workplace, and that is their whole business. They have people who study the process of psychological behavior and map it to safety concerns in blue collar industry, and then they go in and work with leadership
Nice.
around these concepts. And one of the things he was talking about with psychological safety was the foundation of your employees feel comfortable coming to you to bring something up if they saw something, in the case maybe it's a repetitive thing or there's a concern that they have. They know it's going to be listened to and sincerely, someone's going to want to take proactive action in a good way. And it sounds like you've really established that environment of the open door, or hey, this is a psychologically positive environment. You're not going to get beat up because you shared with us that there's a potential of something going wrong.
Absolutely. I think I earned the respect from my team for having those policies, right? That you're showing that I care, and open door, and not reacting in a religion way, or a
Mhm.
violent way. It's
Yeah, right.
listening, like you said, Tony,
Yep,
opening the door, and then reacting, trying to make that, whatever the situation, correct it, fix
yep,
it and
yep,
correct it, make it better for them.
yep,
And I think over the years they've seen that, and they recognize, so they know when I'm coming out, all I want to do is fix things.
yep,
And
yeah,
and they're
yeah,
happier for that.
yeah. They should be, and then safer for it as well, right?
Right.
So there's observations, like we just talked about, where we see people doing the right thing, and there's discussion where people feel like they can bring stuff up and and work it through with somebody else to maybe change a process or to fix something that's getting skipped. Let's look at the data side. In particular, when it comes to like metrics or a dashboard, what types of data do you look at, and with what frequency to help, okay, we've got our observations here and now we've got our, objective data, that you look at. What kind of data points might you consider throughout your course of a day or a
Well,
week?
so with safety, I'll be honest, Tony, I don't have any KPIs for safety. The biggest thing, like you kind of said, we're a high production shop, so the KPIs we use is a square foot per man hour, and what we call remakes, or our green sheets, and we monitor that on a weekly basis. Um, and a monthly average in our team. We have goals, and they're incentivized for their goals, and one watches the other. Like, you can have a lot of throughput throughout the door, but if you're sending garbage, that doesn't work for us either. So that's why we have a remake incentive as well. So if there's really a reduction of remakes, then they get rewarded for that as well. So
Yeah.
but with safety, I don't have anything for that. I feel that, I try to monitor that just based on incidents, I guess. And
Mhm.
we don't have that many, but I think, in the few that we have is more in the field related, where
Mhm.
somebody slips, or
Mhm.
steps on comes down the
Yeah.
stairs. I mean, those are the
Yeah.
accidents that we have. It's
Yeah.
not something where it's a really accident prone incident. They're truly accidents. So,
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting too, because I think there's a lot of people out there with the same philosophy around KPIs with safety. Is it's almost like you can measure throughput, you can measure the number of widgets that come off the end of the line, but the reality of it is that we want safety to just be permeated throughout and part of the process. So it's not like we want to set a KPI for a number of days without injury just to
Right.
hit it. Well, the expectation is we're just doing that, right? It's not necessarily a goal to go one more day without an injury. It is the way we work. We go a day without an injury, right? Um,
Yes. I
Now
want to
we might get
see.
into some data points around air quality and things like that, right?
Yeah, we test our water, we test our air, and that's something my maintenance team and myself we monitor. Just we know what our healthy points are, and we want to maintain that. The teams on the floor, and and material handling, it's incidents, right? And so I want to see everybody come back to work the next day. I want them to see them go home to their families, and they know that. I mean, that when I
Right.
have those conversations, when I have to have a conversation, those are the points I bring home to them, and recognize, hey, you don't want to hurt your team member over here either by taking a shortcut. So when you start having those individual conversations, I think it sets in a little bit more.
So being a part of the a national or international organization like ISFA and being involved in your industry for so long, I'm sure you've met all kinds of people in the stone industry. You've had an opportunity to be in discussions with all different types of leaders and people with different positions around safety and compliance in your industry. Are you seeing any trends as like the top safety and compliance challenges that are facing fabricators across the country?
Well, with the Silica and OSHA incentive from Cal OSHA, I think it's really has waken up our industry, which is a positive. I think it's something that there's only been a small majority of us that have always really appreciated our teams and taken care and really used really monitored the silicosis, right? The air and the water and stuff.
Mhm.
But now if I feel that the industry is being awakened and some more and more smaller shops or individual shops are participating in this, which is just like it's good for the whole industry.
Right.
It's a positive thing. That I'm excited about. I feel that with the involuntary service with OSHA, that word's getting out there, so more and more shops are taking advantage of that as well. So not only is it the air monitoring, but they know about the lockout tagouts, the all the standards with
Mm.
that OSHA requires, right? So there's so much paperwork and everything else that you got to have,
Yeah.
and everybody's learning on that. So
I think one of the trends that I keep hearing, and you mentioned this in today's discussion, is during a conference or something like that, you'll hear people talk about doing the voluntary OSHA walkthrough. And if you're in a breakout room with like 50 people or 25 people or something like that, and you look around the room, somebody like yourself will be talking about like, yeah, we do that, and here's how it works, and it's great. And you can just see on some of the faces of the other people in the room a hesitancy to like, ah, should we do that or should we not? But I see a trend of people talking about that
yeah.
in the stone industry, and I see people taking notes about like an action item. Yeah, I'm going to start doing that. And where maybe they weren't as proactive as in doing something like that before, but from your firsthand experience, there's obviously great benefit to come out of it.
If I can throw a plug in, that's one of the things that's great with ISFA and our members, right? ISFA is actually aligned with OSHA in 3 districts. We are trying to be a voice for the fabricators when it comes to national OSHA rules and policies, if there are any more to come down or any changes. But with that, being aligned with OSHA, OSHA is actually has even OSHA is actually informing their teams about this involuntary service even more and more. And so the word's getting out there, even they're coming by, hey, can we do a involuntary service? Instead of the surprise knock on the door. They're coming and offering that to shops. And I
Mhm.
think people, I mean, between the two organizations and what you stated earlier about all these events, I mean, that is like it's spreading like wildfire, and that's what we need.
Everybody needs to raise their bar in
Hmm.
those particular areas. And the more proactive you can be and get ahead of this stuff, it's going to be better for your people and clearly better for your business and, less risk or less operational risk and financial risk to the business because if, something were to go wrong in any of those areas.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on the end of our discussion here today, but before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about what your thought is on advice to other operations leaders in the stone industry, and if you could point them in a direction and say, look, um, over the course of the next 90 days, here's two things I would look into that are going to be either you're going to go, yep, we do it right, and you're going to benchmark it against something else, or you're going to have this light bulb go off that I should go take a closer look at what we do in our shop in these two areas.
Well, I don't like to tell other shops what to do. It's not my thing. But if I would have to suggest, I think every operation guy feels that they're connected to their team. Um, I guess I would want you to say to make sure that you really are. Get out there, have conversations with them, let them know that you care. And by doing that is kind of what I've stated earlier, is take those those voluntary steps to measure your shop and your silicos, silicon water testing, your air testing, and do that voluntary, and just to make sure that you're keeping your team healthy. And I know everybody is saying that they're doing it, but there's only a handful that are actually doing it. So
Yeah,
that's something. We also do the health monitoring where we send our team in every year. They get their physicals, they get their X-rays. Um, as their supervisor, I want to make sure that they're healthy. And if somebody's not healthy, I want to help them through the process. But we've been fortunate enough, everybody's come clean every year. So that means we're doing things right. So I
that's
guess
great.
I would take that step and take those actions. And like when it comes to safety, Tony, is there again, have that open door policy, let them be able to bring things to you. But make changes. Listen to
Hmm.
them and try to resolve an issue. I mean, there's 100 ways to make a countertop, right?
Yeah.
But find the way that works for your shop during, your position that you're in, but make it safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Some great suggestions to our listeners out there today, and some good key takeaways on how to take a closer look at your own shop with a fresh set of eyes. Now, as we wrap up here today, I'd like to ask my guests a couple of quick rapid fire questions where you're just going to say what's the top of the mind answer that pops into your head. Are you ready?
I guess.
Question number okay, question number one. What's one safety habit at the Countertop Factory that you've become most proud of today?
Um, the biggest thing I would have to say is when we move material handling, with our slab racks, our saw operators move equipment that, there's safety poles in place so no slabs can fall over and fall off and hurt anybody. I mean, that,
Yeah,
that that was never implemented, something we looked at a few years ago, and now we don't move a piece of equipment unless the safety bar is in place.
there you go. Good. And this second question is a little bit off topic, but still in the neighborhood. I'm very interested to hear what's your favorite piece of equipment or technology in the shop and why?
Oh man, that's a good one.
You got some
Um,
cool stuff, CNC and big
yeah,
fitting
we have
machine.
all that. The biggest question I get asked is, from if you had to pick a saw, what would it be? And I know there's new equipment coming around all the time. So I don't have some of the latest equipment, but I was always proud and I'm going to say the Baca robot saw, which a lot of shops have. But if you really use it as a workhorse, a production saw, it can really cut the volume.
Yeah,
We're cutting at speeds that other shops just aren't heard of, and they're like, "Why are you cutting so?" I mean, because we can, and you got to test your equipment, and we use all the equipment here. We really push it to the limits every day, all day long. So,
yeah.
and it seems like once the equipment gets used to running at that, it's fine. But you got to push yourself and your team. you're gonna go through some trials and errors, but you're gonna figure it out. And once you do, it works well for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our listeners out there, if you've never been inside a stone fabrication shop before, I will say they have some pretty cool machines out there that are cutting and polishing and all kinds of interesting stuff. If you ever have an opportunity to tour one or you want to go see an advanced shop, certainly look up the ISFO organization and see what kind of site visits they can help you connect you with other people. That's what the organization's all about. Well, that's all the time we
Thanks,
have
Tony.
for today, Troy. I want to thank you so much for carving out some time to spend it with us here at Compliance in Motion. That's it, folks. So, as you know, if you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe, and share. Not everybody out there in our profession, in the safety world or quality assurance world, has a network of people to talk to. And we bring you Compliance in Motion. Grab a cup of coffee, sit down, listen in, take some notes, jump to another episode, craft your own path, and you're sure to walk away with some great tips and insights that you can apply in your organization, no matter what the industry. Troy, thanks again. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Tony. I appreciate it.